Hey there, and welcome to LChat. Thank you for joining in tonight. I know that it takes a few minutes for everyone to file in here, so while I'm waiting on everyone to join in, I would love to know and hear from you, what is your go-to productivity strategy or tip that you live and die by? And while you're doing that, I'll just run through a few introductory things and then I'll go ahead and jump into tonight's LChat on productivity tips and strategies. If you can hear me and see me and everything is okay on your end, let me know in the chat feature right on the side of the screen. It's going to have you log in, and hopefully that process is easy on your end, but just let me know if you can hear me all right. I know there's a little bit of a lag too. For those of you who are just joining in, great, you can see and hear me. Thank you all for letting me know. For those of you who are just joining in and may be new to LChat and stumbled upon it somehow and don't know who I am, my name is Lauren Hooker, and I am the graphic designer and blogger behind Ellen Company. And I started this LChat, I guess it was back in March on Twitter. And it's just an informal gathering where everyone could pour in and discuss a topic in blogging, business, and design. And so I've been running these. I changed it into webinars so we could get a little bit more in depth on these topics, but I still want it to be that informal conversation. So that's what that chat feature is for too. I'd love for you to join in, and for those of you who are just joining in, let me know what your tips and strategies are for productivity, your favorite one, before I dive in tonight. I'll wait a couple more seconds. So, but yes, I started these just as something really informal and to give back to you, to share my best tips and strategies for business, blogging, and design, and pour into you as a creative entrepreneur. Because I know that a lot of times you're running on E and you're pouring out and giving of your time and energy, so this is a time to give back to you. All right, awesome. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you and we'll get started. All right. So before we get started too, we have that chat feature, but we also have a Slack group for the LChat. And this is a place for you to leave comments and feedback, not only tonight during the webinar, but also afterward, and carry on a conversation about the LChat and about productivity. It's a place for you to go throughout the week and leave more comments and really just join in this community. So whether it's topics that we covered in the past, last week was organizing content on your website and improving user experience. Before that, we talked about color palettes and how you choose a distinct color palette for your brand. So we have all of these topics on here, and it's just a forum to get feedback, to bounce ideas off of one another. So if you haven't joined our Slack group yet, and this is your first time to LChat, go ahead and go to lchat.herokuapp, HEROKUAPP.com. It'll have you put in your email address. It'll send you an invitation, and you'll get access to this Slack group. And if you've already been invited and you've already been to the Slack group, a quick way to get back to it is lchat.slack.com. There's different channels on the side on different topics, but if you just go to the general channel that you'll land on when you land in this Slack group, that's the main one, and you can go ahead and leave comments in there. I know the chat feature for the webinar only allows you to have so much space and so many sentences in there. So if you have a longer question, feel free to leave it in the Slack group as well. So with that said, we're going to dive into productivity tips and strategies. I know for many of you who are joining in, especially for those of you who are full-time, part-time, creative entrepreneurs, you wear many different hats and you play many different roles within your business. And I know that the one thing that is very scarce for all of us is time. It's one thing that we can never get back or buy more of. And so it's really important that we make good use of the time that we do have and stay productive, especially when you're running short on time. So that's the purpose of tonight's LChat, is to help you be more efficient with your time and be more effective with your time, especially in preparing for the new year and for 2016. I want to help you make it your most productive year yet. I also know that I'm going to throw out some productivity tips and strategies, of course, but they may not work, all of them may not work for you. I've learned that some people are more productive by batching tasks, and some are more productive by doing the same routine every day. Whatever it is, this is meant to just share strategies with you. You might be able, hopefully, to take some away and be more effective with your time, as I said before. I'm by no means a productivity expert. I continue to learn on this subject, but I'm excited to share what I've learned, especially throughout these last 2 years of business with you all tonight. So we're going to start with scheduling and time management, then we'll talk a little bit about emails, and then we'll run through maybe some tasks that you could even delegate and free up more time in your schedule as well. So the first tip is to utilize time blocks. So what I like to do in my schedule is at the beginning of the day, I look at all the tasks that are ahead of me, and I schedule out time blocks for each one. So I say from 8 to 9 o'clock, I'm going to work on social media and emails, and when 9 o'clock comes, I'm just going to stop with the emails. And it puts a little bit of pressure on me to get a lot done in that time period because I know that that's the amount of time that I allotted. So it's kind of a little game for me to beat the clock. Then I set aside time for client projects and build in time for breaks. Whatever's on the agenda that day, I utilize those time blocks. And so for you, if you try to get several tasks done within a window of time, you might go ahead and set aside the time and dictate your day by time blocking. So look at what's on your schedule and set aside hours for each task or however long you expect it to take. And maybe you might even allot more time and be a little bit generous with the time that you allot there, because a lot of times, if you're like me, you might underestimate how long it takes you to complete a task, and then the rest of your day is thrown off. So give a generous estimate and maybe try to beat the clock, and this could help push you to get more done. And it also helps you account for the tasks on your to-do list. It helps you set priorities, and it also helps you maintain boundaries, because if you look at your schedule and you say, I don't have a time block for that task, I either need to schedule it for another day or turn down that opportunity or set those boundaries. So if you haven't tried utilizing time blocks yet, that's something that you might find helpful and might give a try this upcoming year. Next one is to plan, oops, I think I skipped one. Nope, plan for the unexpected. So things inevitably come up in our schedules. Projects fall behind, and some tasks take us longer than we expect them to. And so we know that unexpected hiccups in the schedule are going to come up and potentially derail our entire week and our entire schedule. So plan for it. Schedule time to play catch up and complete an unexpected task, or maybe even just rest. But whether it's a full day out of the month or if it's a couple hours out of the week, go ahead and add some extra time in your schedule, because inevitably something will come up that you didn't expect and throw off your entire schedule, and it'll just add more stress and more chaos. So you might consider planning some extra time in there to allow for a little bit more wiggle room. Another tip is to put a limit on meetings. I don't know about you, but I get on a meeting with someone and I enjoy talking to them, and inevitably I end up spending more time in a meeting than I had anticipated. So you can take that same time block approach with your meetings. Instead of saying, let's meet at 3 p.m. on Wednesday and leaving it open-ended, having start time but no end time, you might start saying, let's meet from 3 to 3:30 p.m. on Wednesday, so that the person you're meeting with knows that you need to cut it off at that time, and you save yourself from going over. And not only does it respect your schedule and your time, but it's also respecting the time of the other person that you're meeting with. So putting a time limit on meetings can be really helpful. having that start and end date or time. The next is to stick to a routine. So I know for me, my morning has the potential to set the tone for the rest of my day. So if I get up early in the morning and don't let the alarm clock go off and hit snooze 10 times in a row, which has happened very often, if I get up early and go for a run and take a shower and actually get dressed and ready for the day, if I have my coffee and do Bible study, eat breakfast, if I get that all out of the way before I start working, I kind of get on a roll and I'm much more productive throughout my day. It's kind of exciting to me to see how much I can possibly get done. And so, but if I don't and I wake up late and I stay in my pajamas and I start working from the couch, inevitably it throws my day off. I'm not as productive. So it kind of sets the tone for the day. And that's for me. So for me, mornings are most productive. For you, it might be a different time of the day. But I would encourage you to find your most productive time of the day and build your routine around it. Find the things that fire you up, get you excited, get you on track to being productive, and make it a point to stick to that routine every day, every week, whatever it might be. And again, you might not be a routine person, but if you are, then that's even more important that you stick to that same routine day after day and stay productive. And the next is to create a workflow. Routines form habits, and the more you complete a task or you follow an order of operation, the faster and more efficient you'll become. So creating a workflow gives you a step-by-step of instructions to follow. So for example, for my clients and my client process, I have a workflow that I follow, and I use this chart that's available in the Ellen Company library, and I list up top all of the different tasks that I need to complete within my client process. So have I received the contract? Have I received, or the signed contract? Have I received the deposit? Have I had the initial meeting? Did I set up their project page? So I have every task there. And then along the left-hand side, I have all of my clients' names. And so as I go throughout their process, I just have a checkbox and I'm able to keep up with each one. This is especially helpful for those of you who take on more than one client at a time or run through the same process and have many different timelines going. This is helpful for you if you have a shop and you need to fill orders or whatever it might be, your blog process even. Following a workflow can be so helpful, and the more and more you go through this exact same process again and again, the more efficient you'll become and the faster you'll get at the process. So I would encourage you, for any processes in your business, to take the time, maybe even before the start of the year, and write out what that process is going to look like from start to finish and create a workflow chart. And who knows, there might even be a freebie at the end of this webinar if you hold out for a little bit longer. And it might look a lot like this workflow chart right here, hint, hint. So go ahead and figure out your workflow, map it out, and I guarantee you, you'll become much quicker and much more efficient. And for those of you wondering, especially for those of you who are here for the first time, I'm recording this webinar and I also post all of these slides to the Slack group, so you can access these later as well. The next one is to keep one browser window open at a time. I find it really easy to get distracted, especially if I have my email window open in my browser. It's really distracting to me if I see a new email has popped up. I'll stop what I'm doing. I'll go read that email. I'll get sucked into whatever it was that email had to do, whatever subject it was on. If it's a good email, that might be a good thing. If it's a bad email, it'll throw me off and ruin the task that I was doing. So I found it really helpful that if I'm trying to write a blog post or if I'm trying to work on client work or whatever it might be, that I close out all of their windows to keep me from distractions. Twitter is the same way, any social media. I usually hide my phone and just zone in, and because I block time, I might even set a timer or say, I'm going to work on this until 3 o'clock and then I can check my email. But just having that those parameters in place, and something as simple as only keeping one browser window open at a time is usually helpful for me, and it might be helpful for you too. Next is to set your 3 biggest priorities for the day. So I am sure that many of you can relate to having a very full to-do list and a full daily to-do list, not even for the week or for the month, but every day. And so I would encourage you, and I've found this helpful for me, to go through your to-do list and pick out the top 3 biggest priorities on the list, the things that have to get done that day, and worry about those first before all the other little odds and ends. And I would encourage you to do this for your daily tasks and priorities, but also for the week, for the month, and even for the year. As 2016 is approaching, what are your 3 biggest priorities this year? And it'll help you focus in a little bit better and not get overwhelmed by all of the tasks. This is also a really great way to set boundaries for yourself. So if you look at your weekly calendar, and I know for the calendar that I just put in the Ellen Company library, I created a planner. And on the weekly views, at the very top, I have a checkbox, 3 checkboxes with lines for you to list your biggest 3 priorities. And for me, I'll go through and I'll say on Monday, I need to finish module 1 for the e-course. I need to catch up on emails from the weekend, and then I need to prep blog post graphics for this upcoming week. And then for Tuesday, I might go ahead and fill those out. And then as I get emails of people asking me to do something or whatever it might be, it's a great way to set those boundaries and say, no, I really don't have time for that day because these are my top 3 priorities. Or, yeah, I do have time to put that into my schedule. I found it really, really hard lately to say no to good things and set those boundaries. And so any boundaries that I have, or anything like this even that helps me visualize my time, is very helpful. And you might find it helpful too. So if you struggle with figuring out which tasks to check off first, or even which ones to focus on, go through and choose your top 3 and get those out of the way first. Next is to schedule social media. Social media is one of those things that that can derail your schedule, that can be a huge distraction during the day. And I've found scheduling social media to be so extremely helpful for my schedule, for my business. It's had so many benefits. It's really great for time blocking. So usually it's done right in the morning, and then you don't have to worry about it again. So you do it all once, you put the focus and the time into it once, and then you can check in during the day if you want to, but you don't have to. It doesn't require any more of your time, which cuts back on distractions. It makes you more intentional about what you're posting on social media, and it helps you develop kind of a social media strategy. What messaging do you need to put out there? But it's also great for consistency, because you get on that schedule of figuring out all of your posts at once during the day. And then it's easier to delegate tasks down the road too. So I have a dear friend, someone who's come on board with Ellen Company, might even be tuning in right now. Hi, Jenny, if you are. Who helps me buffer posts now. So it was really easy because I had already started using Buffer, or another social media scheduler, if you don't use Buffer. But I highly recommend it. I've really enjoyed Buffer. But because I'd started using Buffer, it was easy to pass off that task and delegate it to somebody else. So if you aren't already scheduling social media, if you do it haphazardly during the day, if it's really distracting to you, then I would really encourage you to start using Buffer and scheduling your social media. And I know too, even when you check social media, or maybe you go to write a post on Instagram, it's always easy to get sucked in, and 30 minutes goes by and you're like, what in the world just happened? So yet another reason to schedule it out. And then also batching tasks. Sometimes it's easier to knock out tasks in one setting than it is to spread them out over multiple days of the week. So for something like I said just a moment ago, creating blog post graphics for the entire week, it's so much more efficient for me to go in all at once in Adobe Illustrator and just create a bunch of blog graphics at once than it is every day to go in and create a new blog graphic, save it, and go through that process. Maybe it's not doing blog post images for you. Maybe it's finding articles to share on social media. Maybe it's meetings that you have throughout the week. Maybe it might be helpful to just schedule one day for meetings and just knock it out. Maybe it's blog post writing for you or a part of your production process. Whatever it might be, if you find these smaller tasks that are cutting into your schedule, just go ahead and create a time block, batch those tasks, and get them out of the way. It'll end up saving you a lot of time in the long run as well. It gets it out of the way so that you don't have to worry about it again for the week, for the month, maybe even it's a task for the year. All right, so I moved through those kind of quickly. I'd encourage you, if you have some questions or just comments or feedback, to go ahead and leave those in the chat window or in the Slack forum. I'll have time for a Q&A at the end, and I really want this. I really want us to share our productivity tips and strategies because, again, I know they look a little bit different for everyone, and I know I would love to see what works for you too. So feel free to go ahead and start utilizing that chat if you haven't already. We're going to move into email. And I don't know about you, but email is one of those tasks that I tend to dread with a passion. It's one that tends to build up for me, and I've come up with a few helpful productivity tips specifically geared toward email. And again, I'd love to hear your feedback on this one as well, because this is one of the harder parts of business that I struggle with probably the most. So first one is utilizing Boomerang. If you haven't heard of Boomerang, your world might be rocked by this simple app for Gmail. I love it. You can install it for Gmail too. If you just Google Boomerang for Gmail, you'll get to that landing page. It'll walk you through how to install it. It's free up until a certain extent. I use the paid version. I'm not sure how much it is. I think it's less than $10 a month. And for me, it's worth every penny. So what does Boomerang do? Boomerang allows you to schedule emails. So for me, I try to stick to office hours of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I usually work earlier than 9 a.m. and I work later than 5 p.m. But for me, I want clients and people I network with and those I'm doing business with to know that they can expect to hear from me between those hours. And then after those hours, I'm not going to respond. I'll wait until the next workday. So for me, it's important to have those boundaries in place so that they don't email me at 11 p.m. and expect a response right away. So what I do if I'm doing email after hours and I'm trying to knock out a bunch of emails all at once, I will go in and reply to the email and then use Boomerang to schedule when I want it to land in their inbox. So usually I'll set it for 9 a.m. the next morning, or I can even, if I'm doing it during the weekend, I can have it go out at 10 a.m. on Monday. So I can choose what time it goes out. I can even Boomerang it to a month from now if I want to, but it lets me have more control over my inbox, and I love it. Boomerang also lets you boomerang emails. So just like the name of this app, what you can do is if an email lands in your inbox and you don't want to deal with it right then, you can boomerang it and it'll go out of your inbox and it'll come back in for the time that you set. So if I have an email come in that I need to get to that afternoon, but I just don't want to see it cluttering up my inbox, I might boomerang it so that it comes in 3 hours from now and then I can deal with it. Or if it's something that I need to remember to do on next Monday, I'll boomerang it so it comes in my inbox on Monday. It's a really great way to keep my inbox at 0 and not forget to do tasks because I use a folder system, which I'll get to in just a second. But if you haven't used Boomerang, it's definitely worth looking into. It can save you some headaches in the email department. The next one is Canned Responses. It's another Gmail app, but you don't have to use the app for Gmail if you don't use Gmail. You can also use Trello or Evernote to put together canned responses, but canned responses are just what they sound like. They're responses that you've already come up with. They're templates as replies to common questions that you might get asked a lot, or just emails that you send out often. So for me, I have a canned response for design inquiries. I have a canned response for single logo inquiries. I have a canned response for design contracts when I send them out to my clients. I even have started putting together canned responses for people who want to collaborate with me or have questions about Squarespace. So all of the questions that I get asked often, I've tried to put together canned responses to save me time, because it takes a lot of time, especially when I try to thoughtfully reply to each person, to put together a thoughtful, well-rounded response that answers their question. And having a canned response ready to go is really helpful. When you install the canned response app to Gmail, if you choose to do that, you can go ahead, like this screenshot shows you can go into canned responses, you can click one to insert, it'll automatically populate, you can add a person's name and hit send, and you are good to go. So to save you time on those responses that you find yourself sending time and time again and taking more time up out of your schedule, go ahead and just create a template for those responses, and you'll be so glad that you did. The next is to point people to your FAQ page. So I would highly encourage you, if you have a contact page and you get a lot of emails coming through your contact form, at the top of that contact form to go ahead and say, before you put through a question or whatever it might be through the contact form, be sure to check out my FAQs to make sure that I haven't already answered your question. It will save you time in the long run, but it will also save that person on the other end. It'll save them time, because they'll be able to quickly find the answer to the question that they're asking you. So point people to that FAQ page on your contact form, and you'll be able to even more thoroughly answer their question. You'll be able to point to blog posts if you've answered a question more in depth. You can point to those specific blog posts in your frequently asked questions. So if you don't have an FAQ page already, go ahead and create one. It'll save you so much time in the long run. Be sure to link to it on your contact page. And the next for emails is just to implement a folder system. Find folders of emails that the subjects of your emails, the most popular ones, go ahead and create folders. For me, I've found it a lot less stressful, and I have a lot more peace of mind when I'm able to clear out every email in my inbox and reach inbox 0, even if it only lasts for 1 minute. And it's helpful when I file emails away to find them again. So I have folders for my design clients. I have folders for people that I network with. I have folders for contact form submissions so that I don't lose them later. But every email that isn't being deleted finds its way into a folder at some point. So that's been really helpful for me, just for peace of mind, because if I see that there are hundreds of emails in my inbox, even if I've looked at them, it's just stressful for me, and it lets me know that every single email has been taken care of. So if you aren't already using folders, I know it seems super simple, but if you aren't, you might find it helpful. Or if your folder system is out of whack, you might spend a little bit of time, especially before the new year, just getting your folder system in order, just to clear those emails out of your inbox. So we've covered some time management and scheduling tips and strategies. We just went over emails, and I'm also going to cover delegating. So maybe you've gone through all of these things, and just the number of tasks that you have on your list are far too many for the number of hours you have in your day. And that's when you really need to consider delegating. This is the point that I'm at with Ellen Company, bringing on help to help me with the tasks that don't require my immediate attention and don't need my touch. So like I said, social media scheduling is one of them. As a business owner, your time is best spent doing those tasks that nobody else can do for your business, and also doing those tasks that are going to bring in money and keep the income coming in. So I wanted to run through, I think it's 20. These are from a blog post that I did recently. 20 tasks that you could be delegating right now. These might not apply to, every single one might not apply to you, but you might find some in there that you could pass off to someone else and free up your schedule a little bit more. Like I said, social media scheduling. You could pass that off to a virtual assistant or someone like that who could take that over for you so that you don't have to worry about it. The design of your brand. If you need a refresh, or if you need a complete overhaul on your brand and it's too time consuming for you, you really don't know what you're doing, reach out to an expert who knows what they're doing. It's not only going to end up in a professional result, and I know I'm a designer, so I'm a little bit biased, but it'll also save you some time in the long run and a lot of headaches in the long run. Legal tasks, pass those off. I know that can be really overwhelming and almost even frightening because you might not know exactly what you're doing or what's right, what's wrong. So for some peace of mind, you can pass it off to a lawyer to take care of, whether it's your client contracts, setting up an LLC, whatever it might be. There's also other resources out there like LegalZoom for things like that as well. But just go ahead and pass those off to someone who knows what they're doing, and you'll be thankful in the long run. Accounting and taxes. We're rounding the end of the year. In a few months, April will be here before you know it, tax season. Go ahead and pass that off to someone else who knows what they're doing if you can, and if you can afford to. It'll save you headache and time in the long run. Same goes for bookkeeping and keeping up with your expenses and the money coming into your account. Go ahead and pass that off to somebody else. Research, if you are doing an e-course or you write a lot of blog posts, whatever it might be, pass off that research to someone else to prepare for you to make your job a little bit easier. If you don't enjoy blogging, you can hire a ghostwriter. It might seem a little wrong, but there are a lot of people who do this. I am not one of them, but it seems common in the blogging industry. So if you understand the importance of blogging, you're not a great writer, you don't feel comfortable doing it, or it just takes up too much of your time, you might consider finding a ghostwriter to write for you, or taking submissions or having guest posts as well. Blog post setup. It takes a lot of time to write a blog post, but it also takes more time than you would think to set up a blog post, to create headers and add in a blog post image and an excerpt and tag and categorize it and schedule it. It takes at least 30 minutes for me. So you can pass off that task to somebody else. Same thing with your newsletter. If it takes you forever to set something up in MailChimp, get someone else to do it for you. For editing your blog posts, that also takes time to go back and read it objectively and catch any grammatical or spelling errors. Get someone else to do that for you. For those of you who own a shop, it can be really easy to pass off some of those tasks like shipping and packaging and all of that to somebody else. Emails. For a virtual assistant, if emails are a headache for you too, get someone else to come into your inbox or forward emails off to somebody else who can take care of some of those easier emails for you. Scheduling and time management. I found it really helpful for both Jake and Jenny, who I brought onto the team, to ask them to help me schedule my time objectively. What are the biggest tasks that I need to be working on? What could this look like for my day, for my week, month, year? And just get somebody else to help me schedule in meetings. I don't know, it just takes up a lot more time than I would think, and it's helpful to have the accountability there and somebody to have an objective eye on it. Invoicing, keeping up with the client process and that workflow, you can pass that off to somebody else. Marketing your business. If you have trouble figuring out how to market your business to your audience, whether it's through social media or your newsletter or whatever else it might be, pass that task off. Website design and maintenance. If you have a site that requires maintenance pretty often, and that's one more thing on your plate that you have to worry about, pass it off to someone else. Production, if there's steps in your process that require work. So for example, I used to do wedding invitations, and I used to cut out all of each piece of the wedding invitation suite, and it was a headache. it would have been more worth my while, even though it may have costed a little bit more money, to have it printed somewhere else and trimmed somewhere else so that I could maybe even take on more clients and get more designs out. But if there's a part of your process like that that is taking up so much of your time, pass it off to somebody else who can do it better and do it for you. Errands. If you have a lot of errands to run, get somebody else to do those for you. And the last two might seem a little funny because they aren't necessarily business tasks. They can help you spend more time on your business. The first is dinner. There are a few sites out there like Blue Apron or services out there that will deliver meals to your door and just deliver the ingredients for healthy meals to your door. So if going to the grocery store is a headache and a time suck for you, if you just want it delivered, go for it, if it would save you time. And also, I remember being at a conference one time and listening to a speaker talk about having 4 children. I think she may have even been pregnant with her 5th. And she was talking about her photography business and how she did consultations and how it took her more than 3 hours, probably a good portion of her day, to clean her house from top to bottom and clean it well with all of her kids. And she could have spent those hours doing consultations and making hundreds and hundreds of dollars within that time, that window of time, that she just decided that she would pay a housekeeper to do it for her because her time was better spent with clients, making money and bringing in money for herself and for her family. So that might be a task that you consider delegating as well. And I've found that the more tasks I delegate, and the more tasks I want to find to delegate. It's hard to release that control at first, but once you do, it can be really liberating and it can save you so much time in the long run and get you back to the things that you need to be doing that require your touch in your business. So I ran through that pretty quickly, but I would love to continue this conversation with you and hear your questions and get your insights. So I'm going to hop off of here and stop sharing my screen with you, turn it back around, and we'll open it up for questions. There we go. We're back. So great. It looks like you all have been really utilizing this chat, so I love that. So feel free to use the chat window. Feel free to go into Slack and start asking questions there. I would love that. And I'll start going through some of these. So I think way up at the top, Chris is back again this week. And the question is, how do you deal with phone calls? As I find it's fairly distracting, though hard to dismiss. One thing that I've found some people do is to have open office hours. So they'll say, I can take phone calls from this time to this time each day, or maybe it's just one part of the week. Sometimes with phone calls, you can't really help it depending on what your business is, but I would, if you hop on a call and you only have so much time, you might even say, hey, I have 15 minutes, but I'd love to talk to you, and just set that end time to your call. But I think setting those boundaries is important. If it's something that you can just let ring and go back to later, that's sometimes what I do too, and with text messages too. If it's during my work hours, I usually don't respond right away. I'll usually respond later, especially if it's something personal. Great. Let's see the next question. Great. I love that there's conversations in here. This is what I was hoping. Sarah says she has a bad habit of having multiple tabs and browsers open all at once, and I fall into that too. So that's why I found it helpful just to have one browser window open so that I don't see notifications and get distracted. Oh, and Sarah's not the only one, apparently. Apparently there are several of you. You like the 3 biggest priorities. That's awesome. Checklists. That's also really helpful. I found that I will usually have so many tasks running through my head that if I don't write them down, I lose them. So I usually have my planner. I'll write it down in my planner, but I also have sticky notes and anywhere that I need to start writing things down so that I don't forget them. Let's see here. It's a long list. I love this. Hootsuite is also great for social media scheduling. I think Bree wrote that. Thank you, Bree. That's also great. Hootsuite is another one. I think we tried that out in the past. We may have. But thank you for sharing that. So Buffer is one. Hootsuite is another a great resource for scheduling social media. Chris says the best piece of software is followup.cc. It's similar to Boomerang. I'll definitely have to try that out. For those of you who are sharing things like Hootsuite and followup.cc, if you would want to go ahead and leave a link to that in the Slack forum, I'm sure other people who are joining in would love to see that as well. All right. Let's see. Boomerang. All right. Resources and references for accounting and for taxes. I would love to see resources about that too, Jen. So if any of you have resources for accounting and for taxes, like I said before, leave it in the Slack forum. The chat disappears at the end of this live stream, but the Slack forum chat doesn't disappear and people can return back to it. And if you want to leave it under that LChat, I think I named it productivity. If you look in the left-hand side of the Slack forum, there's a channel I put in there for tonight. It's called productivity. Join that and leave those in there so that people can easily find it instead of using the general channel. All right. Marissa says, for help with editing blog posts for misspelling or grammatical errors, she recommends Grammarly. It's a free text tool that you copy and paste text into and it checks it for you. I've used that too, and you can actually, Grammarly also has an app for Chrome, so you can install it, and as you're typing, so for emails and blog posts and any of that, it'll let you know when you have any errors. So it's really helpful and really accurate too. Again, that was Grammarly, and I'll try to remember to put a link to that in the Slack forum. And Jen says, I definitely wish there was such a thing as Boomerang for text messages. And yes, Jen, I agree. If anybody has the extra time and resources, that would be a great tool to start. And Jen said, I'm new to LChat. Where can I join your Slack forum? So, and I will put this slide back up just really quickly so that you can see it. Let me share my screen with you again. Let's see here if I can get it up. All right, so for those of you who joined in maybe a little bit late, to receive an invitation to the Slack group, you can go to lchat.heroku app, I think is how you say it, HEROKUAPP.com. And that will allow you to put in your email address, and then you can check your inbox, one more email in your inbox for your invitation, and then you can create a Slack account if you haven't already and join the group. If you've already joined in the Slack group but you're having trouble finding it, it's lchat.slack.com. So again, it was lchat.herokuapp.com, and for those of you who've already signed in, it's lchat.slack.com. So I'm going to jump back over. There we go. Okay, let me get back to our chat. Chris says, I'm having issues with the Slack forum. It says that I'm signed up, but I don't have a password. I will get Jake to check on that for you. He's behind the scenes, Chris. So hopefully he can help you with the Slack forum issues. And if not, if you feel comfortable, or if you want to send me an email with your email address, I will send you an invitation to the Slack forum as well, a personal invitation. Yes, your email would be awesome. All right, I'm gonna head back over to the Slack group, and let's see here. So Chappie is the username, and they ask, do you research, write, and make artwork for a blog post all at once, as in one day, or do you research one day, write another, and make artwork another? That's a part of the process that I should probably refine a little bit more. Usually I do it all in one sitting, and I know when I was blogging every day I did that because as much as I tried to do everything in advance, it was hard, especially coming out with content every day. Now I try to plan my blog posts far in advance and do some research for them ahead of time. Usually I'll write them, and especially for the collaborative, I'll do all of those blog post graphics all at once. But yes, usually, I know I'm all over the place with this question. Usually I research, write the post, and do the, I need to turn off those messages right there. But yes, usually I do it all at once, and it is a lot. Tabby said doing it once is a lot. It is, and usually it takes me about 3 to 4 hours for each post from start to finish to outline it, write it, edit it, come up with a blog post graphic, put it in Squarespace, tag it, get it all ready to go, and schedule it. So that's something that I have to allow for within my schedule. But great question. Let's see if there's any more in the general. All right, I'm gonna go back and forth between the two. Going back to the chat. Marissa says, since you do get so many emails per day, is there a company, resource, or blog you absolutely love getting emails from and find tremendous value in them? One person that I do love to follow, and I get excited every time I see an email, like a newsletter from them, is Sujan Patel. Sujan, S-U-J-A-N. He's a content marketer, and he shares a lot of stuff on content marketing, and all of his advice is really solid. All of his content is great. A lot of times I'll not only read it, but I'll forward it on to Jake to read too, and then I'll save it into a folder. Whereas with some newsletters, I may not even open them, or I'll just X out every time. But if you're looking for someone to really help you with blogging and content marketing, Sujan Patel is an awesome person to follow, and you will enjoy getting emails from him in your inbox. And Sarah just shared about the Timely app too. Sarah, if you want to tell us what that does, I would love to hear more about that. Let's see here. Looking for other questions if you have them. Hopefully I'm not missing any. I know I ran through that pretty quickly. You're welcome, Marissa. Toggle is another one that Jen Coyle is talking about as well. So Toggle might be worth looking into too. I love this. And I would love to hear what are the tools that you use to stay productive, and what are your greatest tips? Even if there's something just really simple, I'd love to hear. Sarah says that the Timely app is a scheduling and time tracking at the same time. So that's really helpful. That's another productivity tip as well that I didn't add in there, but tracking your time and figuring out how much time it takes you to complete a task from start to finish. And that'll help you even time block your day a little bit better as well. So that's great. Great. I don't think I missed any others. And if not, I'll go ahead and share a free resource with you. Let me open this back up again. I think I gave it away earlier, but I have a little something for you for joining in our LChat tonight. It's a little freebie. It's a workflow chart, and I'm going to share it in that Slack group. So if you haven't joined yet, I would highly encourage you to do so. You can print this out and use it for any part of your process. Like I said before, it could be for blog posts, it could be for your client process, whatever it might be. In the left-hand side, you can put your clients or all the blog post titles, and up at the top, you can put every part of your process. So for me, up at the top, I have a slot for the contract, slot for deposit, meeting, project page, gift card as a little client gift, another meeting right before the project starts, inspiration board, logo concepts. So I've outlined every step of the process, and then my clients are along the left-hand side, and I just put an X in the box as I go along, and it makes it really easy. So I hope this comes in handy for you as well. And if you enjoyed this printable and you enjoyed this little freebie, This is a part of the Ellen Company library, and I also have other helpful resources like blog calendars and blog calendar workbooks to help you brainstorm blog post ideas and create an editorial calendar. I just put in a brand new 2016 planner that has both weekly and monthly views in there. I have a ton of things like business card templates and all sorts of things to help you run the back end of your business a little bit easier and hopefully allow you to be a little bit more productive in 2016. So I'll add this free printable to the Slack forum right after I hop off of here, along with the slides from this LChat and a recording of the LChat for you to go back to later for those of you who are tuning in later and couldn't make this live. So let's see if I have any more questions. If not, I'll go ahead and sign off a little bit early and share this freebie with you. Let's see here. All right. So one more time, I'm going to check that chat feature. Get back here. Thank you, Jen. I appreciate that comment. Let's see here. I don't think we have any more questions. But again, I would love to hear your productivity tips. Feel free to post in the Slack forum throughout the week. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I always love spending time with you all on Thursday nights. We will not be meeting next Thursday because it will be Christmas Eve, but I do have one more LChat planned before the end of the year to help you with goal setting and planning for 2016, and I have a special guest for it too, so be on the lookout for that. I'll share the registration link within the next week. Yes, hopefully tomorrow in that Slack forum as well. Thank you all again for tuning in tonight. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your week. Have a very Merry Christmas, and I hope to see you again soon.